all right. So it looks like we are already recording. So that's pretty cool. We're waiting for our guest, Joel. And yeah, I'm super excited. And Dave, the host, should be on in a minute. So we're going to check it out here and see what's going on. Super excited. This will be our first podcast with a guest. So.
Hello.
Whoa, hello.
Why, hello. Look into my eye. Whoa, it's magic.
Whoa, you fancy now.
Right? Well, I was like, well, I can't do it in the kitchen, so I'm going to have to go in my bedroom. And that's where the swing is at. And I don't want anybody to, I'm not ready to share that part.
Yeah, especially, talking about the bedroom and the swing.
I'm just saying. Have you seen The Good Boys?
What's up?
The Good Boys. It's a movie about like 3 boys in junior high, and it is irreverent and gross and absolutely hilarious.
Interesting. I'll have to take a look. Let me test out. Are you able to turn yourself up?
I can. Let's see here.
Let's see if.
Full screen.
Interesting stuff.
Audio.
We learn as we go.
Absolutely.
So he's in the waiting room right now.
Automatic.
But I just want to check to see.
How's that?
I'm gonna text him, let him know that I'm going to let him in just a minute.
Sure. Is that any better?
It could be just mine. So.
How about that? Any better? Testing.
It's the same. It's still, you're low, but it could. I tested mine and I heard myself well.
Huh. Test mic to see if others can hear you. Please record your volume.
Real quick, while I kind of do a little see what's going on here.
Huh. I just tested the mic and it seemed okay. I'm looking at the input levels and it's went to audio settings and it's
we'll find
going
out
halfway up. Yeah, for sure.
As long as you can hear them, we'll figure.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you well, and yeah.
Spatial sound off. Windows Sonic for headphones. Dolby Access. Open sound settings. Let's see. I bet you that's it.
Yeah, you might just have it as a low volume.
It'll be good. We don't want him to see the stuff. So yeah, you sound low, but we'll make it work. You did something last time and you sounded really good.
Interesting. So when you're in settings and audio, does it show a speaker? Like, can you turn your AirPods? Can you turn your volume up in audio?
Where would that be?
So you go into settings and then you go to audio. So if you're like in the Zoom profile,
yeah,
you go in there and go to audio, and then it has speaker and microphone output. You see that?
So I got mute, switch to phone audio, leave computer audio. No, same as system.
Do you have Zoom downloaded on your computer?
Now I shut you off. So give me 1 second. I hit a button I shouldn't have.
No worries.
Say that again.
Do you have Zoom downloaded on your computer?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. So, okay. Anyways, we'll figure it out. We'll make do. It's. Can
you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I never had a problem. So, but this is the first time I'm using this account. So I got an account specifically for that. But let's bring them in a second. Unless you want to go.
No, I'm good.
All right, we'll figure it out if, all right. Yeah, cool. So here we go. Hey, Joel, what's
Hey, Joel.
happening? Good morning, Joel.
How you doing?
Excellent. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, David? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Actually, we met one time. I went to the mastermind group with you guys.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy looks so familiar. Have I
Right.
seen him on television show?
Yes, and on TV, soap operas.
A&E,
Yeah.
right?
Right, exactly.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. You too, for sure.
Well, Joel, we appreciate you coming on. Dave and I have known each other for a while now. And so, all being business owners, all being dads, all being, quote unquote, the men and trying to figure stuff out. And Dave and I have been chatting and realizing that there's men's groups that have faith-based, and then there's men's groups that have, hey, let's go to Vegas and get rid of the wives. But there's not really any groups that, entrepreneurs can kind of have a conversation. And I grew up where, you were a man's man. And what I realized, a lot of those man's men were able to talk to other men and figure out, hey, this is what's going on. And it wasn't necessarily frowned upon. So Dave and I, and he'll tell you a little bit more articulate than I am, decided to launch this podcast and truly try to figure out how we can help the community. And that's kind of where it's at. Definitely want to, I told you, Joel, have some fun, try to make a difference, and then, also help people make money. And so that's kind of the attempt of all of this. And we'll see where it's going. Most of my friends are my clients and vice versa. And that's kind of where I think are going. And I don't know, Dave, if you want to jump in and kind of talk about the
Sure.
mission statement and kind of go over a little bit of the format, and then we can get this thing rolling. We'll be out of
Yeah.
here by 11 o'clock today. So
Definitely. So for me, I as well had the experience of, well, I mean, my dad was definitely not like a man's man and drove that into my brain, but that is everything that society tells you to be as a man. Like for me, it didn't even matter what it was like at my house. I left and went into the world and realized that, I'm definitely a sensitive guy. I cry at movies and all that kind of stuff that is definitely frowned upon in the man's man community. So I wasn't sure where I fit. And so I wanted to kind of reach out and speak with other men who are kind of going through this type of revelation as well, or even not, and kind of see where they're at and how that compares and just start a conversation. So we just wanted to kind of create a space where men could talk freely and not be judged. And I think that is rare in what we see currently. And yeah, so we're just here to have a conversation and see where it goes.
Great.
cool. And Joel, so this just so that maybe Dave is a little caught up on your background and kind of who you are and whatnot, and we can kind of share a little bit more about that as well. But if you just wanted to give him a quick, this is who Joel is, what business you're in, some of the stuff you're looking for that maybe we can help with, or businesses and things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be personal, but and then we'll just kind of jump into this thing and see how this goes.
Well, I appreciate that, gentlemen. And I always like to start with the personal, just because it helps, I think, to kind of know a little bit more about the person. My wife Peggy and I actually were born and raised in Southern California. We've never left, but we've thought about it. We've been raising our 5 kids and trying to make our way in the world. I have a background in education, and so I spent some time as a classroom teacher. I've also worked at charter schools. My my for-profit business is a financial business, insurance, annuities, debt solutions, things like that. Just helping people navigate the financial world with their family and also for businesses as well. And one of the things that's always kind of inspired me, in addition to my passion for music, is service. So that's actually kind of how Matt and I started to get to know each other, was through community service. And currently I sit as board chair for a local nonprofit called Project Boone. And, you know, it's been a passion for me as a volunteer, and now as board chair. You know, it's just neat to see a nonprofit from the inside out, and how we can really, you know, build the organization to create community for people and empower people in our communities that maybe are feeling disconnected, especially during this time, and making those connections, helping people engage. And I think we're all better for it.
Agreed. Yeah. And we all appreciate it, for sure.
What kind of music do you like, Joel?
Kind of music do I like? That's always a loaded question, Matt.
Yeah.
You know what? I always answer it this way. I say that I like all genres of music, all styles, types of music, but I don't like every artist within every genre.
There you go. I agree with you on that.
Very broad.
I'm passionate about a lot of different artists, but you know, sometimes people say, I hate country western, or I hate rap music, or what have you. And I said, you know what? I don't really hate any style of music, but there's some artists I tolerate.
Yes.
What type of music?
Artists that make me want to dance or sing along. So
yeah,
I hope that answers the question.
I think so. Well, I'll ask one follow-up. Like, what type of music actually does make you get up and want to dance? Like, I know for me, there's moments where I have the radio on, and I don't know, maybe this morning I was in the bathroom by myself and started doing one of these.
Yeah, Dancing Queen by ABBA. No,
That's a
I
bold
love
choice, my friend, and I appreciate it.
No problem. I love R&B and hip hop for dancing, but I was also known back in the day to get in the mosh pit at thrash metal shows and punk rock events. So, I'm not afraid to move, and I it's not against my religion to dance, so that's not a problem for me.
You a little bit of Social Distortion fan by chance?
A little Social D. I like Social D. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, me too. They're
Yeah, man. No, I love music, but yeah, I would say I don't do a whole lot of dancing to country western music, because I know that line dancing is kind of its own animal. I'd rather do the Macarena than line dance.
Yes. Macarena definitely a little bit easier than those line dancers.
Definitely.
Indeed.
Well, cool, man. No, that's exciting. So I appreciate it. I don't know, Dave, from what we talked about, if you want to, get started and asking some questions before we jump in, or if you want to kind of give a little bit more about yourself and me, or maybe,
Sure.
if you
Yeah,
have
I mean,
that
a little
mission
bit more background. I like to talk, so that's why I'm talking over Matt right now. My background is I have a degree in psychology, and then needed to get a real job. Those are air quotes right there. So I started in claims, and then eventually realized what a soulless isn't the right word, but it sucks your soul out of you, because you have a checkbook and people want your money and will do anything to get it. So I got into the sales and service side, and grew an agency, personal lines agency. And we were independent, worked with Mercury, Kemper, Safeco, all those, and grew it to, I believe we tapped out at 2.3 million in gross revenue. And then I sold the business last year for a couple of reasons. The primary one is I was just burnt out. I went down a path that was unengaging in the business. And as we all know, as business owners, that is a death sentence if you don't get off of it. And that's what it was for me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I made a nice profit and had great experiences and took my family on, well, I was going to say a once in a lifetime vacation, but that would be selling myself short. So I will say just an amazing vacation. And now I'm just kind of getting back into what I want to be passionate about. And mental health for me is one of those things.
That's
So,
great. David, can I ask you a question? I don't mean to cut
Please.
you off, but I
no,
think
not at all.
right after that time that you and I met, correct?
Yes, correct.
Shortly after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say.
It's all coming back to me.
Yeah. So I definitely had some great experiences with the time that I've had off of insurance. And yeah, I just really appreciated the opportunity, but am looking to go into something that I'm passionate about, because I know what it's like to be in a business that you just don't have a connection with. And
Right.
so yeah.
I think I'm kind of in a similar situation. I was talking with a gentleman who has it's not really a supplement. It's more like it's an energy drink business that he started, and he's based out of Utah, but we were talking yesterday and he said, "Hey Joel, how can I help you? What do you really need?" And, you know, I started, the thing that animates me is our nonprofit. So talking about that kind of dominated my mental space. And I'm like, wait a minute, he's asking me about my business. I need to tell him what I want. I want more producers. I want more people who are passionate about insurance, because I'm not that passionate. I had a lady ask me that the other day. She's all, Joel, what makes you so passionate about insurance? I said, well, I'm not really passionate about insurance. I'm just happy about what it can do when people need it. So when it works, it's great. I wouldn't say I'm passionate about it, but I was introduced to it by somebody who was passionate about it. You know, they found me when my wife and I, our youngest was a baby at the time. We were early 30s and had no life insurance. And you've heard the story. You've heard this story before. And that was my story. I just had never been educated that, hey, you have a young family, you need to have some life insurance. We live in the state of California. We have to have auto insurance. But that was something that I started to get educated on. And then a couple of years later, I started to move into this sector. But I didn't start out being passionate about insurance. I'm passionate about people. I want people to win. And so I need to focus on that, hey, this is an opportunity I'm giving you to kind of mirror what I'm doing. I'm making my situation better in this industry. You can too. And being able to transfer that to people, I think, is probably one of the greatest challenges out there for somebody who's not necessarily passionate about the product, but very animated about what the product can do.
I agree. And I got into the business because of human connection. Like I said, I love to talk.
Right.
So when I stepped into more of a managerial role, I kept trying to do that and then stepping back into sales and service, and then trying to do that and stepping back into sales and service. And
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's a road of burnout, my friend. I mean,
yeah, I know. I'm numb right now. I'm just kind of in a numb state.
Well, we need to find passion.
I'm not burnt out. I'm numb.
Well, I think that's one of the 12 steps of burnout. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be. It might be.
Hey, Joe, what are you so passionate about Project Boom? What's the high or the reason why you do what you do in that in that group?
But what about our organization gets me jacked up? I would say that it's a lot of little things that kind of make up who I am. I've always been in community service since I was in middle school. So well over 30 years, I've been doing some sort of community service. When I was in college, I did prison ministry. I tutored inmates in math and biology and things like that. And, I actually ran a service project in college that had about 120 college students. So I was managing 120 college students, and they were partnered with 120 kids in the community, kind of look out for them. These are at-risk kids. And so they were like glorified tutors who might take the kid out for an ice cream cone once in a while. But that's kind of my experience. I've always been in and around service. This isn't my first time being a board chair. I don't know if I told you that, Matt. I
No.
was a board chair for a church actually in Pomona, city of Pomona. And so I've always been in and around service, and it's been something that's animated me. I don't know if you know this story, but when I first was introduced to Project Boone, it was about 5 or 6 years ago. And actually, I think it'll be 6 years this Thanksgiving. I think it'll be 6 years. And Chris gave me a phone call. And Chris Sahonic, for those of you that don't know, he's one of the co-founders of Project Boone. He was a friend of mine from like 20 years ago prior to this, in the music industry, just in the friend space. And he calls me up and he says, Joel, I need a rock band for one of our events. And I thought, rock band? What kind of event is this?
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's a community event. You know, we're gonna be out there giving Thanksgiving dinner to the community, and we just want some live music. I said, oh, that sounds simple enough. And so my first interaction with Project Boone was providing a cover band for an event. And that happened for a number of years. About a little over a year ago, I got another phone call from Chris, and he said, Joel, I want to have lunch with you. And that's, you know, Matt, you know Chris as well as I do. That could be a loaded proposition, yes. Right?
Yes.
So with that, I just said, sure, Chris, yeah, let's have lunch on Monday. It's all great. When I got off the phone, because he didn't say anything, he just said we're going to have lunch. Mm-hmm. I told my wife, I said, you know what? He's going to ask me to sit on the board. Watch this. Watch this. And because he didn't say anything about Project Boone. It could have been about music. Could have been two friends meeting up for lunch. Yep. And sure enough, he asked me to sit on the board. And he said, I actually have the idea that you'll be our board chair, but we'll get to that. So that kind of got me in there, is that I've always been passionate about people, kind of like you, David, mm-hmm. where it's like, I always want to engage with people. And if, you know, there's nothing more inspiring than giving someone something where they can't give you anything in return. You know, where you can actually do something for someone and you're not expecting anything in return, and you're probably not going to get anything in return. So some people say the giver's high keeps them in the volunteer game, but I would say just the act of service itself is something that I enjoy. Whether Absolutely. You know, whether I get thanked for it or not. Whether
That's a beautiful statement. That's a beautiful statement. Sorry? I said that's a beautiful statement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Chris and I, we talk about that a lot. We say, you know, there's some people that do, and then there's some people who say, and then there's some people who they will never do. And so it's kind of like trying to find the same people that have the same philosophy about life, whether it's about business or service or family or community. Finding those types of people that are all on the same page is a challenge, you know. And I mentioned that service project that I ran in college, and I took it from 50 to 120 college students. That's what I'm trying to currently do in my business, you know. But it's you know, asking people to, you know, part with 2 hours a week to work with an inner city kid is much different than saying, hey, why don't you come over and run your own financial business?
Agreed. I think, you know,
those people, I know they're out there.
Yeah, they're definitely out there. I think one of the things, and, you know, there's some other questions I want to ask, and maybe, you know, we can actually sit down and have lunch together too, but, or breakfast. I like the breakfast better. But the biggest thing is, I can tell you have the service in your heart. Two questions I had was, how many death claims have you actually delivered the check to? That's probably one of the biggest things. And then if you don't have that many, you need to go find stories of the ones, because I'll tell you what, I couldn't do what you do for two reasons. I realized a long time ago, trying to get people to do anything is like herding cats. And so every time I drive by and I see car wash because someone died and the family has to raise money because a life insurance agent was afraid to be told no multiple times. I have some friends that I, you know, mentor and coach, and, you know, I've gotten in their face and I said, if you don't get this person a policy, let me tell you what happens. And, you know, I won't get too detailed on this because, you know, it's pretty bad, but basically, if you don't have enough checks delivered to people that have passed away, you need to surround yourself with people that have actually done that. And then when the numbness will go away, when this is here. Like what you, my opinion, what you do is this. And I'm going to share this one story, which is shocking because I'm not a big sharer and it's even in our mission statement. But my brother-in-law passed away last year. He was 49 years old. He went in for a routine operation and he was supposed to come out of it and he didn't. He left at the time a 5-year-old son and a wife. He had 0 life insurance.
Oh my God.
He didn't communicate to my sister-in-law anything. Nothing was in her name. They're still going through probate. The moment he passed, it was the day I realized that I now, where my kids are grown, have to step up and spend time even more so than I currently do with my nephew. You know, 1 or 2 times a month is what I was. I'm with my nephew probably once a week because that little boy didn't decide, hey, I'm not going to have a dad.
Mm-hmm.
But if the father, my brother-in-law, who I love and miss, would have just sat down with someone like you and said, hey, can we get a $100,000 life insurance policy, a $50,000? My sister-in-law wouldn't have had to go back to work 3 weeks after he passed. She lived with us for about a month, 3 weeks, and she was like, I got to go back to work. So to me, I can't do the business that you do because if one of my agents or one of my false entrepreneurs said that this business is too hard, I would share stories with like that. And you've got stories like that. We've all got stories like that where
Definitely.
$50,000 would have changed your life. Shoot, a $10,000 life insurance policy would have prevented a family on a Saturday at 116-degree weather from going outside and saying, car wash.
Spaghetti dinner, bake sale. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
That's the issues. And, you know, that's kind of what I wanted to do with this podcast is have business owners, because I believe in the next couple of years, entrepreneurs, the fake ones and the successful ones, are going to start killing themselves.
Right.
I couldn't agree more
You
with
gotta
that
get
statement.
those first 2 years of the policy out of the way before they do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's why you got to start now.
Suicide's an exclusion in almost every.
No, for sure. For sure. You know,
I mean, I'm not trying to fight it.
No,
You know.
it's good information. And I don't think a lot of people have that rolling around in their brain, but I don't think anyone knows.
You're right. Let's get that $1 million policy, pay that first premium, and then.
Right. Yeah.
Right. No, you gotta wait 2 years before you do that, at least.
100%.
I mean, it's kind of sick, but man, I have some very sad stories and some very inspirational stories in that regard. You know, I probably have 12, 13 death claims where I've actually delivered a check or check has been sent to the family, maybe a few more than that. But the 2 stories that really stick out to me are the ones where I sold a policy and then the person canceled the policy and died. And because it's like, okay, I did the work, I put it in place, but I have no power over whether they keep it in place or not. And one of the situations was he was an older gentleman and all of his kids are adults, kind of a single guy, divorcee, and it wasn't a large policy, but it was like I don't want to give people hugs, I want to give people money. You know, I don't want to give a casserole or a ham or a turkey, I want to give a check. And so does that animate me? Yes. When I spoke of numbness earlier, I think I was just talking about this era of COVID-19. I think I'm just kind of living in a haze while I'm still putting one foot in front of the other.
Right.
But the most recent one was actually just this last week. We buried a friend of mine, and he canceled a policy that we put in place 2 years ago. Now, he had some other coverage in place. The family is doing pretty well financially, but that's not always the case. A lot of times it's now, like you said, where, a $50,000 death benefit would have given that widow a year to kind of just put the pieces back
Breathe.
together. We're going
Yeah.
back to work. You're right. That's what I was thinking, David. Just take a breath. Oh, this
Yeah.
this sucks.
Right. It's
I lost the love of my life. I'm now trying to put the pieces back together, still be mom, still be myself. Then having to go back to work so quickly, there's like no break. Like I got to get back to the hustle, and it's hard when you don't have your partner with you.
Agreed.
Yeah, and that's the big, the stigma in your industry and in a lot of industries is that, and I think that's where we have to start coming together as a community. I mean, there was a time when the community would come out and take care of it, and I'm with you on serving. I think I shared the story with you about the finger pointing back. If I point, you did this wrong, and there's three
That's right.
pointing back. Yeah. I gotta learn how to use the Zoom a little bit better, but I believe if I serve you, it comes back to me abundantly the same way. And you're right. There's going to be people that you can't control and cancel, but I've seen that difference of what a life insurance policy makes, and it's huge. And so, not to like jump on the life insurance bandwagon, because I know people are like, oh my God, we're just talking about life insurance, but the real issue is
It is Life Insurance Awareness Month.
Hey, I didn't know
There
that.
you go. I mean, that's of course why we're doing this right now.
Yes.
Of course.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Dave, you got some other questions. I have questions too, but do you have any that you wanted to jump in on, Joel? And
Well, when you discuss bringing, with new people that you're interviewing or looking to bring people aboard, do you have these discussions? Do you go into what you're passionate about? And then if you do, does that then stop, or are you continually putting that in their face in one way or another?
No, I know what you're asking, David. And it's interesting because, I shared my story at the outset about how I was a young father, husband, no life insurance. I share that story a lot, but I do need to share about death claims and the power of that. I do need to share about the people who didn't keep their life insurance in place, and then the people who said no all the way till their last breath. Right. I do need to share that more because I think that's a huge why, and it makes us ambassadors for families. It really does. It makes us ambassadors. We're out there on behalf of these families to make sure that widows and orphans are not left penniless.
I agree. One of the
financial destitution. So I need to use that more. I think I do focus quite a bit on what other people want. Like, hey, you're looking to come work with me. What do you want? So I do have that conversation with people. What is it if your why doesn't make you cry? It's not big enough. I'm like, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Why do you want to be in this business? Why do you want to make a lot of money? What are you going to do with it?
Because I want to bang myself over the head for multiple years until I receive a reward for it. Because, I like self-punishment and then reward.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But
it's a spiritual thing, right? It's a spiritual thing.
For sure. Being someone who was in insurance, it's definitely one of those things where it can become monotonous because there's a view of the industry that we're crooked or jaded or you're making me happy. Yeah, definitely. So in any type of industry that's similar to that, it's vital to have the consistent understanding that you're not an order taker. You're the expert. You tell people what they need, and then you convince them that is the case, that you are the expert. It requires a lot of energy, but if you go consistently back to what we used to do is go consistently back to empathy. What are they going through right now? Why are they yelling at you? Why are they crying? And then start from there. And it just snaps people right back into a headspace that is open, and it takes them out of that anger or fear or sadness and allows them to hear you appropriately. So, Ed, I'm sure you know all those things. It's just something that we all need to be reminded of no matter what business we're in.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think business owners in general, we make the mistake of working in our business instead of actually working on the business and the systems in place. And, you know, when I was in, for example, network marketing businesses, and even a couple of businesses that I've owned and sold or owned and failed, I realized that I own the job. And when I let the system do the work, I should have gone out and found more people that were like me. And now when I talk to individuals that are in business and I ask them a question, I'm like, do you want more people like you? And most of them, when we start having those conversations, you know, their initials, oh yeah, I need 10 more like me. The problem is if it was 10 more like you, your business would fail anyways.
Right.
The reality is, you know, a business owner, and again, I don't know why I'm sharing so much today, but it's shocking.
You've been hanging around Joel and I for too long.
Seriously, I never talk this much. I asked a question, but I'm gonna share one more situation. My partner and I are completely different in the fact that he owns a job and I own a business.
Right.
I don't necessarily need to be there all of the time. I trust in my people to get the job done. And if we have to be there 40 plus hours a week, then I own a job. And if I own a job, it sucks.
Right.
It's the worst job in the world. Because that means we're working
Kind of
16,
like
18 hours.
Kiyosaki, isn't it, Matt? You know, he talks about like the cash flow quadrant. Yeah, the self-employed person really owns a job. They're not a business owner.
100%. That's why Robert Kiyosaki says, join a network marketing business and follow the system. And what happens? Most people own that job and they get frustrated and they quit. And that's really a sad thing, where if they just followed the system for a consistent period of time, they would succeed.
Right. If they play the long game.
True.
A lot of people aren't long gamers. They don't have the perspective. They can't relax and focus and that type of thing. At least that's been my experience looking at people who get in and get out of business. That's normally what it is. Say, well, I don't have the cash flow right now. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
You know, are you playing the long game or are you just playing, you know?
But why do you think people just sit? Like, you know, they know if an extra $1,000 a month would change most people's lives. Why do most people just sit?
I think because it's conceptual for most people. I mean, most people have been educated in American schools, and will you both agree that American schools don't teach us to be entrepreneurs? They teach us to be employees. And so we get out of our American academic experience and we go into a job where we're told what to do. We punch in, we punch out. Business doesn't work that way. You know, if you're a true entrepreneur, you know, it doesn't work that way. You're an all the timer. You're always thinking about it. You might not be at the office, but you're always thinking, okay, what can I do? Who do I need to talk to? What kind of strategy can I employ? What new marketing idea can I put into place? Whereas traditional, you know, American employees, when they try to become business owners, they kind of sit around, like you said, what'll get them off their butt? They're not sure because they're not used to being their own boss. The whole concept of being one's own boss is a great idea, but you know, how long does that last? It's kind of like going to a convention or a seminar that gets you all jacked up. How long does that last? 72 hours, maybe?
Right.
Not going to last 72 years, right?
No, the adrenaline fades away at a certain point. And I think what ends up happening, and honestly, what happened to me for quite some time was the level, well, I'll equate it to this, the level of freedom that you have because no one's making the rules for you is like handing a kid a gallon of ice cream and saying, give yourself a little bit at a time and you'll enjoy it for a long period of time. the amount of self-restraint you need to have is bananas. So, you know, you end up with kids puking after 5 minutes of eating a gallon of ice cream. And then you have the select few of kids who understand risk and reward at such a deep level that they say, you know what, I want ice cream for the next month. So if I only take a couple of bites, I'm going to be able to enjoy this for a while instead of throwing up chocolate chip ice cream on the floor.
And then hating it for 20 years.
And then hating it for 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm a strawberry only guy now, you know?
Yeah. I actually have a popcorn story if you're interested.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is it popping?
You know, in it, what? It's popping, yeah. In and around my middle
Get
school
it.
years, it was a very formative time. I obviously fell in love with service, but I also fell out of love with popcorn. I overate popcorn once and I got sick, and I was actually like binging and purging sick with the popcorn. And so for almost 20 years, I thought that it was the popcorn that made me sick. I got that in the back of my mind that, hey, popcorn doesn't agree with you. You can't have popcorn. So
I did something
along with
similar.
the experimentation, I reintroduced popcorn.
There you go. I did something similar, but it was with tequila, and that really did make me sick.
Oh.
So, you know,
I think
that's different, but the same, right?
yeah.
Definitely. So how do you know, because I truly believe in, even based on this, or I don't know, I got to work on my pointing out thing. You know, I think in business, I think it transitions into our personal life, and I think it transitions into marriage and, you know, single married or multiple marriages or whatever it happens to be. You know, how do we help? Because it sounds like to me that how you run your business or how you are at work has a lot to do with how you work at home as well. In my opinion, I could be wrong. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I've heard how you do anything is how you do everything.
True.
So I would say, yeah. I mean, if you're a leader of your home, and, you know, you have a partner, you could be co-leaders, of course. You need to do that for your business as well, because employees are, I hesitate to say this because I don't want anyone who's an employee to feel bad, but employees are like children. You know, they constantly need attention and love and encouragement, and to call your name over and over and over and over and over again. But you need to treat them with love and respect, and they will grow, you know? So I think family is the same as business. You want them to, you want your kids to succeed, you want your employees to succeed, and the more you focus on that, everybody wins.
Interesting. So how do we change it?
I think that's true. What was that? What was the question, Matt?
How do we change it? How do we change our family? How do we change our business? I mean, how do we change the perceived problems that we have in our lives?
Time is the one thing we all have. We all have 24 hours in a day. And, you know, if we're going to focus on HR in our business, we should focus on human resources at home too. You know, it's like a good marriage. A good marriage has time invested and development. I mean, my wife and I actually have we're going to be celebrating our wedding anniversary next week.
Congratulations.
How many years?
23 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're very much in love or in lust, or take your pick.
I don't think you need to decipher. I don't think you need to split those two things apart. They're equally important.
Right, but what we actually scheduled some time as one of our anniversary gifts to each other. We're actually meeting with someone who's going to stretch our vision, and we're going to be doing, you know, meditation. We're going to be doing some values assessment and clarification. The last time we did something like this was 10 years ago. So, and it's interesting because in 2010 when we did it, over the next 4 years, we just had so many amazing things happen in our life up through probably 2015. And we're thinking, hey, if even half of what happened in those 5 years happens in the next 5 years because of what we're investing in now, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be good, very good. So I'd say time, and then I was going to say scheduling, but I guess scheduling and time kind of work hand in hand. You know, where you spend your time is what you get at the end of the day.
Sure, it's kind of what you focus on happens. I mean, you're not getting too specific, but unless you want to, but anything change inside of you? Like if I was going to say, you know, hey Joe, how does a man make it 23 years of marriage with a woman? How does that happen? What do you as a man need to do to make that happen?
Well, I like to focus on the fruits of the Spirit. You know, I'm of a Christian background, and so in Book of Galatians, it talks about the first few fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, and patience. Those four. The fourth one being patience, which is also a virtue. And I would say being thoughtful. One thing I've thought about a lot, you know, over the years is when I say this, how is this going to affect Peggy? You know, what is she going to think? How is she gonna feel about that? So, am I still on? Did you guys lose me?
Yeah.
Okay, thought something froze. But how is this going to affect her? Is this something that's going to be good for her? Is this a loving thing for me to say? Is this even for her? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's for me and David to talk about in our therapy session. You know, is this for Peggy, and is this going to help us and help our relationship and help our family? And so, you know, cool. Love, joy, peace, and patience. I think if every couple in America just focused on those four things and approaching every situation, obviously we're human, so we're subject to error, and we're going to have those oh crap moments where we're going to have to come back and apologize. It's going to happen. But can you imagine if every couple in America focused on love, joy, peace, and patience, what would happen in our world? What would happen in our families? What would happen in our communities?
The future
That's
would
crazy
be different.
if we did that with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in business, because like you said, I mean, it's like, you know, we should love our employees. We should love our business partners. You know, obviously we'll keep it platonic. You know, this is a show, but you know, in the spirit of brotherly love and really making things happen together, I think that creates a different dynamic when people know that you care about them, not just on a basic level, but across the board. Like, I want your success, not just because it helps me, but I want to see you be successful so I can give you the trophy that says congratulations. And you can go be whoever you need to be.
I don't know if you guys know, Zig Ziglar said a long time ago, help enough people get what they want, and you will get everything you want.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, that's really why I'm in Project Boone is, in other things, is I love serving others. I also think it's by me serving others, I get so much back from that. And I'm not even talking monetary. I'm talking just the way it makes me feel. And I translated that into try to do everything I do. If I serve my clients, and if I serve my partners, and if I serve my wife, what comes back, not expecting. If I expect it, then I think it kind of, I think people smell it and they're like, what does this guy want? But if you just give to give without expectations, I think it's the way to live. And what was, you said, and forgive me, because you said Galatians?
Yeah, Book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 23, if I'm not mistaken. And you gentlemen can look that up. Or 22, 23. I think somewhere in Galatians chapter 5 are the fruits of the Spirit.
Oh,
and,
fruits of the Spirit.
Obviously, fruits of the Spirit's, you know, referring to the Creator or the infinite, you know, source energy, God, if you will. You know,
and interesting how it's all connected, huh?
Yeah, that these are the great truths of the universe. Oh, we should be loving. The opposite of hate. Oh, we should be joyful. The opposite of depressed and in a pity pot or whatever. Oh, love, joy, peace. Oh, Peace versus war? That sounds pretty good. And then patience. Okay. Opposite of impatient, right? Is
Yeah.
patient. These are foundational principles and values, I would hope, that could change the world if we focused on them. Can you imagine just
Sure.
doing a 21-day or a 30-day meditation just on those 4 ideas or principles, ways of living, what that would do for a person or do for a community?
No, I love it. I know if you're in a state of joy, you can't be in a state of unjoy at the same time.
That's right. That's right. It's kind of like you can't be angry and joyful simultaneously.
Yep.
I've tried. It doesn't work. For
No,
sure.
it doesn't. You start laughing. You're like, what the hell am I getting all upset about?
Well, I don't know. It'd be nice to be joyfully angry, but then people would start laughing.
Well, I'm pretty sure
really
that's what
mad
you do
at
in
you,
a.
and smiling at them.
Isn't that what you do in a mosh pit though? You're joyfully
Yeah, right.
angry, right? Yeah. I need to punch somebody because
The
I feel
brutality.
so good.
Brutality, right.
Or at least.
But then
like,
when you get
shove
an
a
elbow to
solid
the face, you're like, yes.
That's right. Thank you.
See, joyful expression is achieved in many ways.
Joyful and jubilant. Right.
There you go.
That's funny.
Well, Joel, we're coming around to the end of this, and I appreciate you. Dave, do you have any like follow-up questions you want to ask before, I want to hear from Joel prior to us kicking this thing off.
Not to wrap up with Joel, maybe you and I could talk at a different time, but I had a question that was a little more in depth of, because as a middle-aged man, I am questioning things, right? That you're coming to the point in life where you look back at, everything that you've told yourself since you were a kid, and I'm realizing all these insane lies that I've told myself since I was a kid that shaped the future, and it's creeping little thoughts like that. Like, my own personal issue is that I'm not smart, or that I'm not, good enough to achieve. I had a lot of success guilt from my business. I made more money than I ever thought I would. And that, oddly enough, made me feel real crappy, So I'm wondering if there's anything that you have kind of told yourself in the back of your head that has shaped the direction of your life that maybe it's time to get rid of, or that you've recognized and moved it on from.
That's an excellent question.
Like I said, it's a little deeper. It's not a wrap up.
It's an excellent question. The easiest thing.
So he's the smart one. I'm the good looking one.
The easiest thing for me would be to deflect and try to get humorous again, or talk about somebody else. Hey, this is their problem. This isn't my problem. But I think I'll answer it this way. There's always some part of our lives that we can be better in. And for me, is being, a lot of people see me as fearless, but everyone has fear. Every person has fear, even me. And when I was in elementary school, I used to try to be quiet. And anybody who knows me will probably start laughing when they hear that, because I would try to be less of an extrovert. I'm naturally an extrovert. I'm actually an ENFP. So I'm like out there, I'm thinking, we talked about empathy earlier. I care, I feel your pain, that kind of thing. It's not BS. That's really how I feel. But along the way, there were times and in different situations, whether it was school or church or community, wherever it happened to be, a family event, perhaps, where I was basically told in not so many words, I need to be quieter. I needed to be more relaxed, more docile. And so like, I would tell myself, maybe I am supposed to be that. Maybe I'm supposed to just blend in. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. And so all the way up through middle school and then into my first day of high school, freshman year, I was going to my locker. I'm sure you gentlemen can picture this. Going to my locker, and I'm like, okay, Joel, this year, you're just going to blend in. You're going to fit in. You're going to be quiet. You're not going to get too crazy and out there. And that lasted about a week. So I always seem to kind of get into the mix of things because I love mixing with people. And it's interesting because I went all through high school being who I was, leadership, different types of situations. And that little voice to fit in, to just be quiet, just settle down, don't make a big deal, don't make any issues for people, don't grapple with the big questions, came up one last time. And that's when I was a freshman in college. I went away to school. I was a 17-year-old starting college because I was a young kindergartner. So I was also a young college kid. Moved into my dorm and I had the same conversation with myself. Are we going to do this again, Joel? Are you going to try to blend in? Or are you just going to say, no, I'm Joel. You like me or hate me, here I am. And so I wouldn't say that I actually have anything that's holding me back now. The only thing that's holding me back now probably is the fact that I'm too comfortable. And so for now, I talk about being uncomfortable and being committed to being uncomfortable and remaining dissatisfied. But let's face it, we live in America. Even with all the problems we have, this is a pretty comfortable place. And so whether it's my business, my family, relationships, that's the little voice where it's like the pain pleasure principle, where it's like, okay, well, I'm really enjoying this over here, but it's not really moving the ball forward in my business. Or I'm really enjoying this over here, but it's not really getting me where I want to go. Oh, well, I'll just settle. That makes sense?
It does indeed.
Yeah. So
I think it's a common thread for sure.
But if there's anything in my DNA or in my thoughts, my whatever, that's there, it would have to be something like, don't be too big. You might not be able to handle it. But I think I can. I'm not afraid. So, but I have fear just like everybody else, but I don't think that's it. I think it's just kind of like not being lazy. The great question.
We live in a comfortable society. It's
very comfortable.
It's a constant struggle to make sure that you are uncomfortable and growing, because that's the only way you can grow.
Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question though, David.
I think it does, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we got 5 minutes left, but I got a follow-up question for either both of you or Joel. How do we get people? So there's a story, and I won't tell it right now, but when people are comfortable, how do we get them to take a step? Because most people are going to wait until it's so painful and then they're going to move. How do we get people today? Like, right now everyone's, still has a job, or if they don't have a job, they have some money, or if they don't have money, they're on unemployment. So everything's okay right now. They're not really in pain. How do we get them today to start moving before the pain comes? Because when the pain's here, it's the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is now.
Yep.
The worst time to plant a tree is when the wildfires are going on. So how do we get people to take a step today to change their life?
David?
That one is a big one. I'm going to let you handle that one.
All right. Well, I would say that there's two things in play. There's incentive, and then there's inspiration. So inspiration is something that I don't mind helping people with, inspiring them to find that deeper reason that they're doing good things. And it lands with the right people, and it is like a lead balloon with others, or is totally missed by others. The incentivization side, if that's a word, incentivizing people to want to win in life or to do certain things, that's a great question. You got to find what they want. Steermanship is about finding what people want, and then putting it just out of their reach to where they have to do something to get it. So I don't know if that answers your question, Matt, but that's one of the great questions. Is like, okay, I can read a marketing piece to someone, say, hey, if you do this, this, and this, you get this. Isn't that great? Doesn't that excite you? But if people don't want it, ultimately, you know, that there's very little that I can do. And maybe that's my own belief about myself, that I can't do that, that I'm not Svengali enough or whatever. But, you know, because maybe I have a negative understanding of that kind of a thing. But, you know, I would say inspiration and then incentivization, incentivizing people to want to do X, Y, or Z, I think is kind of the way I would answer that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's a good answer. I think most people are lazy and ambitiously lazy. Some are like myself, but the problem with most people is they need some kind of motivation or stimulation or
Right.
whatever it is. And if the motivator's not there that day, they don't do anything. And until I think people make the decision in here,
Mm-hmm.
and they say it in anything, when it goes from here, from your head to your heart, then you'll do it.
Right.
That's true, but I tell me to do it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
people have to start. And even if it's a small step in the right direction, just take a step. And I think that's the hardest thing. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I think people are going to wake up 2 years maybe from now and they didn't get the life insurance policy. And unfortunately, they may make a decision that they can't unring. And I'm worried about that. And so,
No, I think you're right. I think you're right.
but I appreciate your time, and I definitely would like to reach out to you and kind of get some feedback, and love to have you on again. I think we just kind of scratched the surface of this. You know, we're all in different stages of our business, but I think being able to share with men some of our things and not worry about the repercussions is important. So, you have anything, Dave, before we say
No,
goodbye
I
to
agree.
Joel?
Well, just to comment on your response, I think I think you hit the nail on the head in a lot of aspects, and I really appreciate you talking to us. And like I said, for me, this is how I want to give back right now to men who are questioning themselves. I would say uncertain times if it wasn't so
I hate that.
overused at the moment, but we'll call it a future of the unknown. I don't know. Now
Right.
it sounds like Star Trek, but
I like that.
yeah, thanks.
I'm more into Star Wars though, but
Fair enough. Me too. But we appreciate you coming on here and sharing, because it's not easy for everyone to share. So we want to create that community, and you did an amazing job. Thank you.
thank you, David. Well, I've really enjoyed being on with you gentlemen, and yeah, anytime, as long as it works with my schedule.
Nice.
For sure. No, all right, Joel, we appreciate it. We're gonna wrap this show up. So, but thanks again. I appreciate all you do. And then if you guys need some financial services, life insurance, Joel's the guy, and we'll figure out how to put I have all your information, so we'll figure out how to get that contact information.
At Joel Cohen across social media. I'm not hard to find.
Love it. All right, buddy. Thanks again.
Take care,
Take care,
gentlemen.
Joel.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.
That's pretty cool. I just literally kicked him out of the meeting.
Nice. See you, Joel.
So what do you think, man? What's your thoughts?
I think it went well. I mean, for a first time, I feel like the conversation flowed smoothly. I feel like we engaged him and were able, well, maybe I'm talking more about myself, but I was able to maintain a sense of quiet and didn't want to interrupt too much. So that was good.
I was shocked. Yeah, man. I was shocked. I think you did a really good job. And, you know, I made sure that I shared this time.
Mhm.
So I think it was a win-win.
I agree, man. You did share a lot, for sure.
Probably the most I've shared in a 1-hour conversation in my whole life.
People that talk and I don't know what an I'm not emotionally motivated something person. Maybe that's what he was talking about. But yeah, no, I had a good time, man. And it was nice to have somebody in here to kind of bounce stuff off of. And I think it was a good kickoff point to figure out exactly what we want to be talking about and where we want the direction of the show to go. And I think a blend of caring for men and watching out for business owners, hand in hand. There we go.
No,
Hand
for
in
sure.
hand.
For sure. It was pretty cool too. It was life insurance month. And so we had a life insurance agent, you know, who's,
Yeah, I think
know-
that's a solid billable moment. I mean, I'm sure you plan that. You play dumb all the time.
well, you know, we'll see. I did know that one thing about him is he has a big heart.
Yeah.
And what's my opinion is he can really impact a bunch of individuals. But let me ask you a question. I don't know if you remember what he said, but he was talking about being numb. Did that resonate, or did you go anywhere with that when you heard him say that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could have dove deep on that, but I was trying to make it more about him and less about me. You know, I'm sure I'll figure out a better blend of that, but I think there are, I mean, I would bet at least 50% of small business owners are numb. I mean, at least.
Yeah.
Because most small businesses are family businesses. They didn't, you know, they weren't raised in business. They wanted to be entrepreneurs. They now have a real stressful job with no retirement.
For sure.
So yeah.
You know, the more, and you know, I know you were in that as well, is the more you get involved, or you were involved in your business. In the beginning, you were super excited, and as time continued, you were just like, I don't even want to pick up the phone.
For sure. Yeah.
And if, you know, it's a serious thing that when individuals feel like right now the economy is still okay, you know, appearance wise, even though I don't think, I mean, they're talking about shutting San Diego down again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is crazy. And I'm, you know, meeting with a business owner this morning, and he has a restaurant, and he's like, I don't think I can survive this next shutdown. And so I look at him and I'm like, are you going to be okay? And he looked back at me. He's like, yeah, you know, I've lost some businesses in the past. He's like, it's just frustrating. But he's an older guy, immigrant, came from Mexico, you know, he wanted a better life for his family. I'm worried about the person who comes and is like, I've never lost before, Matt. They used to give me trophies when I won, or if I lost.
Yeah. I need to take a moment with that, because that is powerful. Excuse me. You don't, when you open a business, you don't expect to lose. You didn't get into business to lose. Everything you do every single day is to win. And when it is thrust upon you, and, you know, not to say that you don't have any control, because there are restaurants who have pivoted and have been able to be successful in, you know, niche ways that allows them to move through this, or at least to this point. But consistent beatdown will make you exhausted and, you know, unable to fight anymore. You get kicked so many times, you got cracked ribs, broken leg, you're not going to be able to get up.
Yeah. You know, we've all seen the movie Rocky, and I don't know why it popped in my head. But the reality is, someone that takes a beating like that, very few get back up.
Agreed.
If any.
Agreed. A extremely select few. That takes a level of internal self-confidence and grit and resiliency that is not bred into society. Like, we're not bred to be completely dominant isn't the word I want to use. We're not bred to be winners, I don't think. I think we're bred to be the status quo,
Agreed.
which is gross to say, actually, but it's accurate.
Well, I mean, Joel said it earlier. He was like, look, we go to school to get a job. They program us. I mean, how many people do you know, even us personally, like, we know what we need to do and we don't do it? Like, why? Because of that stupid dog. Like, I didn't want to tell that story because we were running out of time, but we stay on the tap for so long because why? I know what to do.
Yeah.
Why do we do it?
So there's a behavioral experiment that's super famous, and it is a dog in a cage. It's 70s, they don't do this anymore, but
Yeah.
there's a dog in a cage. And
Sorry, Peter, we won't be doing this experiment.
Agreed. I would never. I mean, my beautiful little white fluffy dog Taco would not be going in this cage. My wife would murder me. I mean, I wouldn't do it anyways, but she would murder me. So it had electric shock on both sides and then a doorway between. They'd shock it on one side, it moves to the other. They'd shock it on the other side, moves to the other. And this continued, I can't remember the duration, but it continued for a long time. And eventually the dog just laid down and just continued to get shocked. He gave up. And I think that doesn't remain with dogs. That shows you how primal it is, that if you get beat down long enough, the desire to get away from it gets smaller and smaller. And I have chills on my arm right now because I find that so internally disturbing and makes me so angry. But it is not inaccurate. And I think that's what makes me angry about it, is that we're all better than that.
It is the programming, not as morbid as that story. There's a story of the little baby elephants where they put the large spike in with the rope. Little, they tug and they tug and they tug and they can't get on. And then they grow up to these monster animals where if they just pull, they would totally be free.
Absolutely.
But in their minds, that rope, that stake, they can't do. And so how do we get individuals to realize that really that toothpick with a rope is false?
Agreed.
Like, inside of us, we have this greatness. Like you said it, you're like, it was this amazing trip. It was a trip and you pause and you're like, it was a trip.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that my life? Are we going to talk about the next 20 years? That
Right.
one trip we took when we were kids? Why can't we go make more memories?
For sure. Did I peak out at, how old was I? I peaked at 42.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where my life ends. That's depressing and inaccurate.
Well, I heard from a guy who said most people die at 25 and then are buried at 65.
That'll make you stop and think. Yeah.
And I know dread is probably, not the way to do things. And, I continue to work, but this whole, and I know Tony Robbins, the why guy, and he wants to know what people think and what motivates people. And he's probably already figured out the answer and everything. But I'm so curious, I myself, I have all these routines and patterns and these things that I do, but do you know how fast I can get out of them? Like
they're not built in. They're not innate. You've created these patterns and they can be as easily destroyed.
It's like the challenge you're doing.
A word.
Yeah, you're doing the 30-day challenge, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
It's difficult.
Yes, it is. Not having any form of substance impair me is extremely difficult. And I don't think I'm different than a lot of people. I think a lot of people in our society, if you said, okay, no drinking for 30 days, it's such a bred in part of our socialization
Mhm.
that how do you interact? Like, hey man, you want to go grab a beer? No.
Yeah.
Well then, what do we do? Get coffee? Is that a thing? Do people really do that?
But what would you say, like, if you break it down, the beer itself,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to put like almost like a kindergarten words on it, what does it really represent?
For me,
To
it
you?
represents fear.
Say that again?
It represents fear.
It's the funniest thing in the world. Not that I want you to repeat it 3 times, but
Mm-hmm.
literally there's a flipping jet flying around. So one more time.
Fear. Fear. Fear.
The beer is fear.
Mm-hmm. Well, because it rhymes. Now that you said it like that.
That was
But
cool. That was like, that's pretty. We should make fear beer. Dare
I
you to
think,
drink.
yeah, well, it already is.
What's the fear?
Well, the fear isn't the alcohol or the substance itself. It is the escape of fear that causes that substance to be craved. At least
It's
for me, anyways.
so is it a negative or a positive?
I think it's a positive till it's a negative.
Hmm.
Because a social interaction, letting loose a little bit, is perfectly normal and acceptable and fun. The difference is when it becomes a part of your part of who you are, part of your daily habits. You are all you advance by being aware, right? You advance by learning. You advance by being cognizant of the interaction with others, and all those substances do is take away from all of those things. So I had a conversation with Heather last night, and I didn't follow through on it actually because we were spending time together. But I was like, you know what? I feel like reading right now, and that isn't completely uncommon. But at 8 o'clock at night, it is totally unheard of for me, because by 8 o'clock at night, kids are going to bed. I've already had whatever, and my focus is gone. I can't read anymore because I can't retain. And just saying that out loud was a trip.
That's pretty trippy.
Yeah. And it felt good. I will say that I definitely woke up clear this morning, and it was really nice.
I mean, that is the that is really the part that I really think it is. The drinking is a distraction, and or to your point, it numbs, or it it takes away from the perceived fear that you have. And if you can figure out a way to replace that distraction and get the same feeling that you get from it, it's quite interesting. One of the main reasons, and don't get me wrong, I mean, my daughters both have seen me wasted in my life, but they can count it on one hand.
Right.
And they do. They're like, oh, we saw you. They were older, 18, 19 at times.
Right.
But I realized when they were little, they were watching me. They were watching me, what they ordered, what I ordered, and all of that stuff. And so I decided at that point that I can go like this all day long, but they're watching my actions.
Agreed.
And to my kids, their perceived stories that they now share as adults are different than what really happened. And it's quite interesting. They're like, wow, we did that. Oh, you did. A lot of them, they didn't realize some of the struggles that we had. And it wasn't because I was talking that we had no problems. It was that they saw a different person. They saw their father doing this and that, and they watched me more than I thought they did. And so I'm thankful that I decided. I used to go to the bar. I'd come off the rigs and first thing I want to do was go get a drink. And somewhere in my 30s, I think it was, early 30s, I decided to limit my intake when they were there. Limited to the point where I eliminated it. It started with, hey, I'd go somewhere like, my wife's family's always having an asada party. Everyone's like drinking, and, from one of our first talks, trying to go along with the crowd, I'm like, they're going to think it's disrespectful. And all these false stories I told them. So I would be like, I'd hold a beer for hours. I would, oh no, I'm still good. And then I built up the courage where I'd be like, hey, I got to drive. I don't know, just have fun. I'm like, you know what? I got kids. And then my wife started saying Matt won't drive when he has his kids there. And then one time we went out and I thought I was pretty sober still. And I realized that I'm now putting my wife in danger, even though I feel like I can drive. So I started changing these habits over time. And I think that's what we have to figure out is the habits that we have are huge. And if we don't change the meaning of those habits, I think Tony Robbins says that too. It's going to be a constant thing. Like the fact that you said last night, man, I feel like reading. That's a win.
Oh, for sure. Everything about this for me has been a win, and I'm not far enough away to I'll be honest, like what you're telling me right now, I don't work on dread. Dread makes me shut down. And so when I'm hearing you talk about, your kids and stuff, it makes me look back on my own life and what I've done and what I've not done. And man, I gotta be honest, man. Because I'm an emotional person, it makes me feel like I'm a piece of shit. Like I'm a piece of shit for doing all those things that you said you wouldn't do or didn't do or decided not to do. Now, I'm not a piece of shit, obviously. And I'm still going to move forward with what I'm doing, but I'm still in a space where I'm not far enough away from the attachment to it that I could recognize I made decisions then that I don't want to make anymore, but I'm scared that I'm going to again.
So you have false evidence of being real, but I thought you said you don't focus on dread.
No, I try not to focus on dread because it cripples me.
Because when you hear it, you start living the things you did in the past.
Yes, it makes me spiral down. So I'll take this positive thing that I'm doing, even though I'm like I said, I'm still going to continue to do it. I'm still going to move forward. But when I start thinking about the negative aspects of my past actions, it puts me in a headspace where I am thinking about all of the negative things that I've done. Then I start thinking about, well, I take it a step down because I feel like I'm coming into myself, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I end up retreating from dread into a place of paralysis.
Mm.
That numb feeling,
You mean the Joel feeling?
the Joel feeling. I don't think Joel has that on lock. I think that's a lot of people. But the paralysis, well, I utilize substances to alleviate the paralysis, actually. So
Or
it made
distract
me
from the
more,
paralysis?
what that?
Or just to distract from the paralysis?
Yeah, to distract, exactly. So it gave me the wash to be able to be like, oh, I'm not thinking about that anymore and I can move on, which is not accurate. I'm not thinking about it anymore because I'm not really thinking about anything anymore,
Mm.
positive or negative, but that feels better than the paralysis.
So I have a question, your operating system inside you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's fascinating to me. Because we constantly talk about this stuff. It's fascinating to me. When do you decide to take action?
You're asking people in general or you're asking me personally?
You directly.
You
When does
directly.
Dave decide to take action? When he's completely paralyzed in his state?
Mm-hmm.
When he's just chilling on the tack in his comfort zone?
Mm-hmm.
When do you take action?
When everything's on fire. Like the tack, that's not big enough. I need to burn my house down in order to move forward. And, obviously that's an extreme and dramatic, as my therapist said a long time ago, you use very flowery language. And I was like, do I? Oh yeah, burn my house down. That's a very dramatic moment. But it is one of those things. I won't let myself fail. I won't let my family fail, but I'll push it to the brink.
100%. So why do you put a fire in the garage by thinking about stuff and then put it out and then feel bad because you started it?
Programming, and I'm trying to break it. I can give you very large specific examples of burning my house down, even as a kid. Well, maybe not as much as a kid, but college for sure. I went to Sonoma State and I loved it there. It's beautiful. Humanistic existential psychology. I had a class where we meditated outside. It
That
was
sounds amazing.
right. East meets West philosophy or psychology.
How come we're not doing podcasts outside? Because I am.
Right. Well, it's hot.
Yeah, that's
Temecula in the desert, it's hot.
That's true. Maybe in the winter we'll be doing the podcast.
For
Not to
sure.
interrupt you, but when you're in the wildfire
Uh-huh.
and everything's burning, are you happy?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
When you get the family out of the fire, how do you feel?
I think I see the line that you're going down.
You're smarter than me. You think that I have all these lies.
Oh, you play dumb. You play dumb. It's the chaos and reward that drives me. Excuse me. When I in insurance, I had clients that I had relationships with, and I think we might have talked about this before, but I would subconsciously ignore them until I pissed them off incredibly. Then I'd swoop in like the savior. Well, that's dramatic as well. I'd swoop in like the hero, less dramatic.
It is a savior, though. You are the savior. You saved
yeah.
their.
So
you saved
I
the
get
policy.
yeah. So I saved this relationship by talking my way through it because I enjoy the talking aspect, and then am rewarded with gratitude and all, like, and gratitude of a blown up situation that was blown up by me, and they didn't know that. So yeah, definitely a pattern, definitely feast and famine in terms of happiness. I don't know.
You
Something
saw
along those
Joel
lines.
today, right? You know how he was talking about he gets excited about serving.
Mhm.
Why can't he serve in all aspects of it? Now, there's going to be times when it's just life. We're either coming into the storm or coming out of the storm.
Mm.
Mhm.
I think because we put our lives in boxes.
Okay.
Service. This is voguing now. Service is in a box, and sales and business is in a box, and it is hard to become a whole person instead of a business owner, um, a man who serves, a father, a husband. These are all different roles that we play, and
Mm.
most of the time we don't realize we're one person. We're just that person at that time. So
Got it.
I think that would alleviate a lot of problems for Joel if he was able to see how much he serves his clients and prospective clients, and what his amazing product will do for them. But
So,
it's difficult to remember.
so I wasn't going to say this. I wasn't going to
Mm,
share this at all. And if you have to go, but this may be an extending it like 10 minutes because I want to
sure.
do a wrap up, but as I'm talking to you, like I'm angry, not at
Mm,
you. And I'm hesitant to even share what I'm going to share with you. So I have a question for you before I share my personal issue that I'm going through. If
mm,
I say something, if I share something with you that's pretty terrible,
mm-hmm,
are you strong enough to take it? It won't devastate you personally. It's about me.
mm-hmm.
I promise you it's about me. There's no hidden thing. Are you able to tell if I tell you a pretty shitty thing that's going on right now? Are you able to take it and not spin you off?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a highly emotional person, but I compartmentalize other people's problems from my own problems.
Perfect. That's what I thought. Okay. So let me tell you something. And this is what pisses me off. First of all, I didn't even know that I was going to share this with you, and I'll tell you what I think. When I found this out, um, I was frustrated. I was pissed. I tried to start talking to my wife about it. She got all emotional, started crying. She's like, so I had to be this man's man, the strong man for her, right? And I'm pissed. So yeah, Monday I get a text from my youngest daughter who's pregnant. And she says that the OBGYN found, and I don't know what the word is, found this thing. She has this thing, it's rare. It's like it happens in 7% of pregnancies where basically the umbilical cord um, could potentially tear sometime during pregnancy, which if they deliver and it tears, my baby could bleed out. My daughter. And one of the complications for my granddaughter um, is she could be a preemie, which is very similar to what happened to my daughter. So I'm thinking to myself, well, shit, this is probably what Sylvia had, where my daughter was premature, but she's fine now and all that stuff. but it was just this terrible thing that happened. Back then, everyone was telling me that I was stupid for going with Kaiser. And I said, look, at that moment, I don't know if Kaiser has the same program, but at that moment, Kaiser took really good care of preemies and babies, and everything was in-house. And, you know, if they would do, it's not a cost thing, they would do anything they can to not only save the mother, they would save the baby at pretty much all cost. And so Ani tells me this on Monday, and then we're sitting there, and I'm, you know, doing research on it just to look it up so I understand. And that night we're talking about it at dinner, and she's like, hey, you know, Dad, you know, I'm moving, and I'm probably gonna have to go to Corona Community General or Riverside Community General or San Bernardino. When I hear the Community General, I'm like, shit hospitals. Community anything basically means shit hospitals. All I want to do is fix it. And so I said, what about Loma Linda? That's what you're literally moving less than 10 minutes to Loma Linda, which is the Loma Linda down in Redlands area. It's
Right.
one of the best hospitals in the country. I mean, they everything's there, similar to what Kaiser was. And so I'm angry. And so she calls, and, you know, she wasn't getting through, and I'm pissed off because I'm like, all right, there's a chance I could lose my granddaughter, but there's also a chance I could lose my 22-year-old daughter. And I have no one to tell this to. Nobody. Like, I'm telling you, like, the fact that I'm sharing with you is because I'm just pissed off, and I'm like, I'm annoyed, not at you, I'm annoyed at everyone that just, like, we don't have time. You know, if we don't start changing our lives and start doing this stuff, shit's gonna happen. Like, you know, I may lose my daughter and all this stuff. So I was fucking pissed off. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And I sat there because I am the leader. I am a leader. Like, you are the leader. We're the men. You know, I don't care. They say that Christ is the head of the church, and, you know, the man is the head of the house. I always say the woman's the neck because it points us into it. But there's times when the man needs to step up. That's my baby. You know, I held her. I mean, I'll share you one thing. When she came out premature, 2 months, they were working on her, and my wife was watching me, and I was watching them. She wasn't breathing. This happened 22 years ago, and I can't. It's, you know, the first time you hold your baby girl, you can never forget it. My first one was watching doctors work on her to see if she was going to breathe. Couldn't take her home. So now my poor daughter may go through something similar. Maybe it's okay. There's a really good chance that if she does everything, it goes to full term, the baby's fine, but there's a chance that it happens where she's going to have to go into the hospital early or bed rest or whatever it is. So all this stuff, and she calls, she couldn't get it done. They're like, you're going to have to go to this community hospitals. It's like, I told, my sister-in-law was here because my nephew has been here for a few days as well. Mm-hmm. They just left yesterday or the day before. My sister-in-law is here, and you know, she's like, Matt, it's expensive. I said, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't give a shit what it costs. I will pay the bill, or if I don't have that kind of money, I will make payment plan. She's going to Loma Linda. I pick up the phone, I make one call to someone that can help. This individual got on the phone, making no financial benefit for herself, got on the phone with my daughter, a couple hours of her day yesterday, and got everything switched over. Monday, my kid goes to Loma Linda in Redlands to give the best chance for my granddaughter, but more importantly, my baby. And I have such a difficult time with, like, individuals, you know, like Joel was telling me, like, he's got people that won't get off the tack and all this shit. I'm like, fuck, dude, that's a problem. And I just, I don't know what to do. And that's why I want this group.
One, thanks for sharing, man. Like, it, as another father and a husband, I mean, definitely, I was instantly there in your home with you,
Yeah.
talking to your wife, standing over your shoulder, wanting to murder, of course not the appropriate people behind the
Yeah.
decisions that were being made. But I think that feeling is the feeling of being a man and a father. You protect your family. I mean, this goes back to cavemen. Like, this is your offspring. We are biologically programmed to make sure that our genes move into the future. And along with that programming comes an immense amount of love. And so we do everything we can for our family. And the attitude, the positive attitude that you have, it may be anger, but it's the attitude that gets stuff done, that doesn't just lay down, that understands that we have a finite amount of time on the planet, and that's unusual. Most people don't understand the finality of their life. If you don't understand, and I'm guilty of this, I fall into that category. If you don't understand why things are so important and that time is limited, you could just pretend. You can just pretend that I'm not going to die. I had people who I would try and sell life insurance to that legitimately told me that it's bad mojo to talk about life insurance. And I wanted to slap the taste out their mouth. Like, I wanted to, because I was like, this has nothing to do with you. It's for your family, and the actions that you're taking and the anger that you feel towards the sitting on the tack is appropriate. And I think you sharing stuff like that connects with people so deeply that it allows them to be introspective and possibly change behavior, to understand one little more bit about how life needs to be constantly engaged. I mean, that's what needs to happen. Man, I don't know. I don't know what to say beyond that, because I always want to talk, but I feel you, and I'm here for you if you need it. And
I appreciate it.
Let's create this community of men who can share stuff like that.
Dude, it's so powerful. Like, honestly, like, all I think about right now, and for a while now, but it's continuing to, like, honestly, I believe, like, if I run a red light and then another red light comes, I stop, because I'm like, something is telling me, if you continue to go through these red lights, you're gonna, like, I think bad. Like, I'm like, you may get into a car accident. Like, I believe it's God or the universe trying to tell you, slow the F down or stop. Something's ahead. And if you're timing, maybe the flipping Grim Reaper's up there. Oh, because I stopped. Like, these are the games I play. And so I'm looking around and I'm like, there's all these signs. And I hope I'm wrong. But what if I'm not here next year? So how much shit do I need to get done prior to it's done? I need to get to work. I've done a lot to get some personal stuff taken care of, and I think about, I got to write this, and I'm like, shit, forget that. I'm gonna go do it, and it may not be perfect, like the podcast. Like, do you know what the podcast, and I told you what it was. It was about you more than anything else. It
I
really was.
appreciate
It was
that.
just like, hey, let's chat. Let's kind of,
Mhm.
I wanted you to see you talking to about you. But it also was for me.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, can we get a community of people together to buy this ranch where we have this community of friends that come together maybe once a quarter to help, to serve, and then the rest of the time that place is ours. You know, hey, this is Dave's place.
Mhm.
You know, come whenever you want. Like, I envision that stuff. It's like, hey man, can I get the cabin? It's your freaking cabin. Come whenever you want. You put in that you paid the price 4 times a year, whatever we decide to come up with, to
Mhm.
serve others, and now live this abundant life of whatever it is, whether it's Mexico or somewhere here, but it
Yeah.
has everything we want. It has the mountain, it has the snow, it has, you know, it's acres of stuff and making memories. Like, that's what I want,
Because
you
that's
know?
how that matters. I mean, making memories is what matters. Because you're not, well, you're not, it's cliche, but you're not on your deathbed going to say, God damn it, I wish I would have worked more. I don't know. I have never been on my deathbed, thank God for that. But I
Go
mean,
talk to the people in the senior community.
exactly.
Literally. Like, we live close to the seniors, and I talk to a bunch of them because they'll be walking around here, you know, they'll be dogging their dogs, and I look at them, and a lot of times they're lonely.
Mm,
And it's because when their kids were growing up, they were working. And now their kids are working because that was the program of what's going on. It's just, it pisses it. I'm angry, yet I'm so blessed. And that's where I was like, I'm joyous. Like, I don't know why I can see a lesson in this stuff. And then I realized, you know why? You decide to.
hmm And worked on it significantly. You just didn't it wasn't just a decision one day and your brain went, pop, now I'm going to do things differently. You read hundreds of books. You constantly listen to podcasts. You're reinforcing the behavior that you want to become, and you're not just thinking about it, which is what we normal people do and are constantly, well, not all of us, and at times, but constantly trying to get a piece of that and change characteristics. And I love it, and I've been to two, the 3-day Tony Robbins thing. It is, man, I've never been so pumped up in my entire life.
Yeah.
But 3 days, I mean, I've been alive for multiple 3 days, and 3 days is not going to change my behavior. The decision to change my behavior is going to change it.
Yeah. And that's the problem, man. And you said it perfectly. It's that exact thing. All of this shit is just techniques. Like, the real problem is we have to work our face off,
Mm-hmm.
and most people don't want to deal with it.
It's
You
hard.
know, I mean, it's super hard. But guess what? Go look. Like, I'm telling you, go look at the 30 years from now, Dave.
Mm.
And if those things don't get fixed, you know,
Mm.
I love my dad. I talk to him basically every day. I give him a break once I'm off. I see him in person. I give him a day off. But his issues I can't fix. And he complains about the weather. He complains about this. He complains about that. And we have conversations. And I'm like, what are you going to do? And I realize that either you be a victim and you blame the world. Like the things I've helped him do, I'm not asking for him to say, Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate everything you did. That's not why I do it. In fact, I don't even need that gratitude. But every time I talk to him, I'm guilty because I'm like, I'm getting so much from you. And he doesn't even realize. And I'm getting so much from you of what I don't want to do. He is a better salesman than me. By far. By far.
Mm.
But he's like every other. Most salespeople are better than me. They could convince you to, you know what I mean? That's why I don't like it. I'm not here to convince you.
Well, so I think what you're saying is, well, I think you're wrong. In some aspects, I think there are salesmen who can convince you to buy things. You care for people and then let them make their own decisions. That's also a salesman, but in a way that's a human being. You're not looking for the monetary compensation that comes after you convince them to buy something. You're looking for the joy that this person will obtain because it will make you feel joy, and then we can all be there together. Sales is a 4-letter word. 4 letters, right? Yeah. No, 5 letters? Whatever. I'm not a great speller.
No, 4.
4.
It is 4-letter word.
Sale. Sale is 4 words.
S-A-L-E. 4.
Sale. Well, I said sale.
S-A-L-E.
So sale is a 4-letter word for sure. Because it's dirty. It sounds
I
gross.
think you were thinking of sell. S-E-L-L.
Oh, there you go. Wordsmith I am. Now I'm Yoda.
Yoda.
But the last thing I wanted to be when I grew up was a salesman. And then I said that to my mom when I think I was in high school, and she was like, "What do you think your dad does?" And I was like, "Shit."
Yeah.
Because my dad is like you. He doesn't sell things. He listens to people, waits to understand what they need, and then helps them out. He's a good guy. You're a good guy. And salespeople aren't, terrible people. There are people who are trained to convince other people to buy things. That's what salespeople are. And that's fine.
But I'm going to disagree with you. I think you're one of the best salespeople I know.
Oh, I didn't say I was a salesperson.
I think you are.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I definitely, I ended up doing what I do because I love to talk to people and I love to understand what makes them tick and then help them out if I can. And then show them the errors of their ways if they need to in a kind and gentle fashion. And I think that's what we all need to do. And even more importantly, if I took 10% of what I give to other people in that aspect and pointed it at myself, I would be a different person. And that's what I'm working on right now.
Agreed. Well, I know we took longer than we originally do.
Yeah, but we got into some good stuff right there. I would listen to this podcast.
Yes. I thought, it definitely sparked something with me today. I just think we're just running out of time.
We are. But like I said, you're one of the few that recognize that. And if we can impress that upon others, they'll be better for it. And it'll be another way for you to give.
It's hard. Like I told you, I think when we shared it earlier, but I'm here to serve and all that stuff, but it's definitely a systematic serving of basically how you said sometimes with your clients, you waited till they, I don't want to get in. I can handle when the fire's going on. When it's all over, I know I can, because that's when I do shine as well. But I've also figured out, why can't we just either prep for the storm and do things so that when the storm hits, we're ready? Or maybe we sail away from the storm because we decide to make these choices.
Mm.
And that's just what I just don't understand it. You know, because I'm like, it's so painful. Dude, it's painful.
I agree.
You know, the thoughts that I have and stuff, I'm like, I want to be wrong, and I'm usually right. And I'm like, why get there?
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's
with
the
that,
same.
You are right. There's not a person on the planet that could argue with that statement. And if they can, they're wrong.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. So,
Mhm.
anyways, we definitely did a 2 hour. Maybe that's considered two. Who knows? But I do like the guest thing.
Mhm.
I just wanted to do one, just to do it, and so now
Mhm.
we can kind of go back and reflect.
Yeah.
And I think we got to define yours and mine's roles.
I agree. It was a great practice run. I
Yeah.
think that you facilitated great. I think the intro and outro, thanking him for his time and whatnot. But yeah, I agree. It was a great run. I definitely feel like we got an understanding of where we can take this. I like the avenue of business owners, but not just limited to that. I think any man what we talked about would resonate.
Great.
So,
Yeah, I mean, maybe for the next one, and maybe we do a guest once a month. I don't know.
sure.
Definitely think about it over the weekend and stuff. And
I like the discussion of post interview to do one and one. I mean, we can do multiple on our own, but I think a conversation with a guest is going to spark such a different topics that you and I haven't discussed.
yeah,
I mean, honestly, I think this last hour or whatever it's been has been some of the best conversation that we've had. Definitely some of the most intense conversation that we had, and it felt good for sure.
it did. And you know what it really, for me, I got pissed off because here I'm sitting on this secret, and I'm still going through my day, and I'm working all week, and I'm doing this, and I'm serving, and people complain to me about shit that's going on in their life, and I don't share nothing, and I'm like, seriously, like, because you don't want to do this is what's ruining your month. And I'm just like, I had a buddy call me, and it was the stupidest thing in the world, and I'm just like, oh man, don't worry, you'll get through it. Keep it going, and I don't say anything that's going on with me, nor does he ask anyway, because it's about what he can get, and that's okay. It fuels me to be like, man, Matt, you're on the right path because everyone else is running away. So we got, anything we want to talk about next week? Do we want to have a guest? Do we want to go back to you and I? Do you want to bring someone on
I don't know, man. Honestly, I think I need to decompress for a few minutes before I put more energy into the next one.
Sounds good.
I mean, like I said, my emotions are open, and so I love talking about this stuff, but it definitely takes it out of me. So I just need a moment to collect my thoughts. But man, I could still I could feel tired, like I just worked out.
Yeah,
I did. I worked out
our
my mind
brain
and my heart, for sure.
Yeah, man. So, all right, buddy. Well,
All right, man.
we'll chat later. I appreciate your time, and I'll
too.
I'll decompress this thing and send it over to you. And so
Sounds good, man. Sounds
All right,
good. You have
have
an
a good one.
amazing weekend. Take care.
you too.
Bye.